It's a shame that the Pac-12 is coming to an end because the brewing rivalry between Dan Lanning and Deion Sanders would be something to behold for years to come. And that rivalry continued yesterday.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borber. Today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for making me your first listen of the day. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Today we're talking about Coach Prime, Dan Lanning, the rivalry. It continues because yesterday, Dan Lanning snatched a transfer out from under Coach Prime. So, as you guys know, Colorado brought in, I would say, probably the biggest, most important haul of the Deion Sanders era, of the Coach Prime era, last week when he brought in six offensive linemen in about 5 days, whatever it may be. He brought in, as we know, Jordan Seaton, got it started, the 5-star offensive tackle. And then it went with Yakiri Walker from UConn, Tyler Johnson from Houston, Justin Maris from UTEP, Khalil Benson from Indiana, and then there was Matthew Bedford from Indiana. So it was like, okay, cool. We got a couple tackles. We got some guards. We got a center. They had a whole new offensive line, and they still do. I would say the integrity of the offensive line is still there as long as they could keep everybody else. But Dan Lanning not only hosted Matthew Bedford for a visit, but he ended up flipping the Indiana transfer from Colorado to Oregon. And so it kind of makes me think of like, damn, Daniel, the Vine. I don't know if you guys remember that Vine, but that one kid that wore the white Vans, it was a whole thing back in the day. That was my exact reaction. I was like, damn, Daniel, because Colorado needed all the offensive linemen they could get. Now, this doesn't mean that they're done in the offensive line ranks. Steve Wiltfong over at 24/7 Sports kind of confirmed my suspicions that he thinks Colorado has a good chance to flip Jaquan McCroy, the offensive tackle that's committed to Oregon. So maybe Coach Prime gets his lick back, as they say, because obviously Dan Lanning and being in Oregon and Colorado, there are very similar jobs in the sense. Obviously, Oregon's a more it's a more solidified job. It's a more proven program at this time. I think Coach Prime will get Colorado to that level eventually, but they're both similar in the sense that they're not recruiting in the state of Oregon or Colorado. Like it's not like California. It's not like Texas. It's not like Florida where you could just slap together a roster of kids from Colorado or Oregon and get to just compete. Like these guys are all over the country. And so it doesn't shock me that they're kind of competing here and there for recruits. And it makes me laugh that it comes down to these two guys are going at it again, because I think like I said, it's kind of a shame that the Pac-12 ended, because obviously Colorado was talking a lot before the Oregon game. They lost. Dan Lanning had that whole speech about, I forgot what it was. It was like their Cinderella moment is over. Their Cinderella story is over. And round one went to Dan Lanning. Like the Colorado lost that game. They got blown out. I would say of all the Colorado games of this season, that was probably the one where it was like Colorado never had a chance in terms of like how they were playing that day. Like USC, they had a comeback. Oregon State, the game was close. UCLA, it was close. So it's just one of those things where I would have liked to see the rivalry progress, because Colorado never had a rival in the Pac-12. And it was like, oh, they finally seem to have someone who could be a rival in terms of off the field chatter, and all of a sudden it's gone. But where Colorado lost, they gained, because the same day that they lost Matthew Bedford, they ended up getting the Houston defense line transfer, Chidozie Nwankwo, from Houston. Very productive, very productive, very, 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 very productive for the Cougars. He's only 5'11", but he's 300 pounds. He's a 4-year starter for Houston, racked up 94 total tackles, 7 for a loss. He had 4 sacks throughout his career. Originally 3-star recruit from Texas. He chose Houston over Arkansas and LSU. He also is a dominant force. He's physical. A lot of people don't realize the importance of playing 2 sports in high school. I think especially nowadays, where we kind of are in this era of like you pick your sport at age 12 and then like you're going to play baseball, you're going to play basketball, and you don't play anything else. It's a good thing for people to play multiple sports. It helps carry over. And for Chidozie, he was a wrestler. And not only that, he was a dominant wrestler. He was 102-5 as a wrestler in high school, which is quite the record. 3-time regional champion wrestler, 4-time district champion. So, yeah, they're getting someone who's physical. I assume he's going to come in and start right away. You put him up there with Shane Cokes or maybe Leonard Payne and guys like that. And I think he's probably the more proven guy, has success at the Big 12 level already, which is where Colorado's going. You kind of have to remind yourself, like, oh, yeah, Colorado's going to the Big 12. Like the other day, I was writing an article, and I was like, oh, I think it was the Matthew Bedford article. I was like, Pac-12 foes flip. And I was like, oh, just kidding. Oregon and Colorado are not in the same conference anymore. Like, obviously, Big 10, Big 12. So there's that whole thing. So what does this mean when you lose a transfer and you gain a transfer? Well, losing the transfer, obviously, it's not ideal. I think maybe NIL played a role. Wink, wink, hint, hint. Obviously, they have Uncle Phil over there. The the founder of Nike is over there backing them at Oregon. And he said that Oregon was just a place where he felt he would be developed and get him to his goals. And that's fine. You know, everybody has their own path and everybody has their own journey that they're going to be taking. I think Colorado's offense line is still going to bring in a couple more guys. They obviously lost Bedford and Isaiah Walker to Texas State, which I confirmed after the show in the comments that it was due to academic stuff. He wasn't, that's what the reports are. He wasn't able to transfer to Colorado. That is Walker, not Bedford. But losing Bedford kind of stings. But at the same time, it makes the offensive line situation a little easier because at the end of the day, you still have Seaton. This is just the offense line, how I see it playing out in my head. I would say Jordan Seaton starts at left tackle. Then you got Tyler Johnson, or you go Justin Mayers at left guard. Then you have Yukiri Walker at center, Tyler Johnson at right guard. And then for right tackle, you have Tyler Brown, which he could play a role for one of the guard spots, maybe move Tyler Johnson over. And then you also have Savion Washington, who I don't know if he's going to start, but he's a good depth piece. But this kind of opened things up for him to start. So Colorado, they're still building that line. And they also, like I said, may flip that Oregon commit, which would be kind of a bittersweet thing because it's like, I think that'd be a better statement because obviously Matthew Bedford, you're getting, he's a 1-year rental. He's kind of like those the players in the NBA where you trade for them for the year or in the MLB, and it's like you're not going to keep them, but it's for that 1-year run. You get a 4-star offensive lineman, assuming he stays happy, gets to play and develops, and he's productive. You just get 3 or 4 years out of him. So you trade a 1 year for possibly 3. So look out for that on early signing day tomorrow. We're going to have some great early signing day coverage over here at Locked On. You guys won't want to miss it. You guys also need to know that this episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into high speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, and that's guaranteed. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is available to U.S. customers only. Welcome back. It is December, and I think we address this rumor about once a month, if not every other month, maybe. But let's just say, for some reason, it always comes up. And I know why, because obviously Coach Prime at the NFL level would be fascinating. I think a lot of people think he'd be a decent coach of the NFL. Well, some do, some don't, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. I know there's a lot of people that don't like what he's doing. But he's a name who draws attention. He's someone who's a Hall of Famer. He has a lot of knowledge about football. And given the right staff around him in the NFL, I assume he would succeed. I think that goes for a lot of people. But he was recently talking about the NFL again, because I think a lot of people, I've never seen And obviously I talk about it because people are talking about it. So I got to talk about what the people are talking about, if you know what I'm saying. I've never seen someone a part of a job be discussed so much for what he's going to do after this job. Like, it's like automatically assumed that Colorado's a one-stop thing for Coach Prime. It's like a one-hit wonder. Like, he's gonna stay here, win a few games, and then bounce to the next available job. He seems to really like it here. Obviously, no coach is gonna be like, yeah, it's all right. I'm kind of just holding out for a different job here, but like, unless it's a coordinator, obviously, coordinators are always trying to get new jobs. They're always trying to be a head coach, but head coaches for 99, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I've never seen a head coach go, yeah, this job is good for now until I get my next job. So Coach Prime is obviously not going to say that, but he's talked about how he's moved his family out here. He's talked about how he's loved Boulder and he loves this and that. And so I think Colorado should be solid with Coach Prime. I also think that there's only a handful of jobs that could lure him away. And one of those jobs already open and closed without so much as a whisper, which was Texas A&M. I think the other job would be Florida State, his alma mater, which obviously they're a top, should be 4-team, 5-team in the country, and they have a top recruiting class coming in. So Florida State looks like they're very much on their way to being okay for quite a long time. They're kind of figuring things out down the stretch with Mike Norvell. He's turning things around. The program's contending with the best. And so it's like, okay, so Texas A&M's off the table. Maybe TCU or SMU, but those are both just because of the Dallas connection. Obviously, Dallas-Fort Worth is a different place, but TCU has got Sonny Dykes. Who knows how long he has left. He took him to the national championship his first year. They struggled this year. I don't know where they go next year, but that's kind of a job. And it's like, is that a step up from Colorado? I'd say no. So then I cross that off the list. Same thing with SMU. Don't think it's a step up. It would just be like a location thing. Deion Sanders Jr. went to SMU. So then I look at jobs like Florida. Sorry, I had to clear my throat there. The Florida Gators. Is that job going to open up soon? Maybe. Billy Napier's kind of on the hot seat in terms of on the field product. It hasn't been what everyone has been expecting. And then there's also the fact that he's kind of struggling, which you don't get fired for recruiting for the most part, but I think it's kind of a role. Florida still has a good class, but they have lost a few top tier commitments to other programs. It happens. It's Flipmas. It's Christmas. It's Flipmas. And Billy Napier has been on the wrong side of a few flips. But he also got Joey Slackman, the Penn transfer at defense line, which every program in the country was after, including Colorado. So Florida's a job that I could see. And then it's like, after that, I don't know. It'd have to be like a very promising job. And I don't like, is Michigan, if Jim Harbaugh leaves, does Coach Prime seem like a Michigan guy? I don't know. Maybe. But I don't think there's a lot of jobs. But he's always rumored to be going to the NFL. And I thought it was interesting because he has, I don't know how much someone could deny having interest in a job. Like, it's one thing to be like, where is he going to go once his sons leave Colorado? Like, what college is he going to go to? What if someone comes knocking with a huge offer after he turns Colorado around? That's different. But he has said so many times, I don't want to coach in the NFL. And so when he was on the Nightcap podcast with Chad Ocho Cinco Johnson and Shannon Sharp, they talked about the Chargers, like the Chargers opening, because obviously Brandon Staley's gone. And Coach Prime said, I don't want to do pros. I love college. I would never do the pros. Los Angeles is too expensive for me. You know how cheap I am. You know, as a California native, Los Angeles is very expensive. You guys around the country that are complaining about gas hitting $3, it's probably like $7 in LA or $6.50 or something. Gas where I live is like $4.45, and that was cheaper than what it was. So it is very expensive out here. That's why there's a lot of people leaving. And Coach Prime doesn't really seem like the Cali lifestyle, the Hollywood lifestyle, for the most part. I think he likes the attention of a Hollywood-like program, but I don't think he wants to actually be in LA. He says, I have everything I need. I'm having the time of my life in Colorado. I love the kids that I get to coach. I love the recruiting process. I love it. I like the purity of the young men. I like the sensitivities and the amateurism, even though it's turning into the pros because everybody wants a bag now, which he's not wrong there. Everyone wants that NIL. I would have a hard time in the locker room with a guy who is making a multitude of millions and he doesn't want to play and doesn't want to give it his all. I would have a problem with that, a real problem with that. And then he continues saying, you have no idea the bull junk we have to deal with when what they tell kids about programs. Oh my God, you wouldn't believe it. That's stuff that my kids receive. You have to be kidding me. They'll show me some of the text messages, excuse me, and some of the stuff on social media is unbelievable. I don't know how somebody wakes up in the morning angry. And I think that has a lot to do with Coach Prime is one of those people where there's not really anything that you can hold against him in terms of like, oh, he doesn't know how to do this or he doesn't know how to do that. He is an NFL Hall of Famer. He has a really good staff around him, and he continues to surround himself with people that make up for whatever his flaws would be in terms of coaching. And so the negative recruiting for Colorado and Coach Prime is he's going to leave. That is pretty much the only thing that they could say unless it's 2 years down the line and it's kind of shown that his teams just struggle, which I don't think that'll happen. I think they're due for about 7 wins next year at the minimum. And so the best way to negatively recruit Colorado and Coach Prime is to say, well, he's not going to be there. He's going to leave after his son's leave, which is going to be next year, obviously. So he continued saying, the foundation is a little shaky in certain areas, but we're certainly headed in the right direction. We're certainly trending forward. We established things that are foundational. When these new young men come in here, it is established and set in stone. They have to proceed with caution. The guys that are here understand that is how it is and it's going to be. We're going to make sure that the standard is standard. I learned to have a tremendous amount of patience, and I learned what we really need. What we need. So, yeah, I think my overall takeaway from this is he keeps saying the same thing that he's been saying probably since he's taken the Colorado job. I don't know if this was a discussion when he's at Jackson State, but at least while he's been at Colorado, he has no interest in the NFL. It is a different ball game. I think there's a sense of entitlement in the NFL. There's probably a sense of entitlement in college, but at the end of the day, coaches still hold a little power over the players in college, whether people want to admit that or not. While the players have a lot of power now where they could transfer, they can draw in a lot of money, it's still the coaches deciding certain things. Whereas in the NFL, if a coach is pissed off at his quarterback because his quarterback isn't playing well and he wants to kind of punish the quarterback, you can't really punish the quarterback at the NFL level because assuming it's your franchise quarterback, the owner's going to be like, we are paying him $70 bajillion. We need him to be playing. I don't care what he said to you. I don't care that he doesn't try at practice. If he's playing well in the games, he must be playing. And at the college level, it's like, if this guy is not trying, if this guy is not following team rules, if he's breaking curfew, whatever, I don't know what rules kids are breaking these days. I'm an old soul, 24, but you could bench him. You could be like, you know what? You got to figure it out. Jawan Mitchell, for instance, obviously he wasn't one of Colorado's best players, but he was a good player for the defense. He was someone who Coach Prime took out of the lineup and was like, he's got to figure things out. Cormani McClain, 5-star recruit, 5-star commit, one of the highest rated commits in program history. And Coach Prime was like, yeah, he's not ready. He's not doing what he needs to do. He's not going to play. At the NFL level, if Cormani McClain is a first-round pick and they're paying him all this money, they'd be like, play him. And then if he fails, then stop playing him. But even then, play him again because we spent a draft pick on him. So NFL is very different from the college level. I forever see Coach Prime being a college coach. I think he has that college mentality in terms of he likes to mentor people. And in the NFL, it's hard to mentor guys who are, which obviously Coach Prime's in his 50s, so it wouldn't be as hard. But it's hard, and he's a Hall of Famer, so there's always that. But it's hard to mentor guys who are getting paid millions. It's hard to mentor guys who basically it's like, I know what I have to do. You know what you have to do. We stay in our lane. You do your thing. I do mine. I feel like that's kind of how the NFL rolls, and I just don't think that's an avenue for Coach Prime. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the latest on Jordan Seaton. Is he flipping? Is he staying? Is he just playing with Twitter? We'll find out. Thank you guys for making me your first listen of the day. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Give me 5 stars, Spotify, Apple. I'd appreciate it. We got to talk about Jordan Seaton because he's obviously, I would say, the cornerstone of not only this class, he's the cornerstone of the program in the sense that he may be the most important recruit just because just because obviously Colorado needs an offensive line. They're going to need an offensive line regardless of who's at quarterback. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders is the face. Him and Travis are the face of the program. But it's Jordan Seaton who could kind of help turn things around the most because offensive line, huge need for Colorado. And there's no other way but to show you the tweet because I can't really explain it without sounding like an idiot. So let me share my screen real quick. So we got Jordan Seaton here. He is tweeting, and usually you put two decisions here. So like you'd be like, are we going to eat Mexican food or Italian food or whatever it may be? So it's one of those things where people usually decide what they're doing. And he tweeted that this morning, and this has thrown a lot of people into speculations like, what is going on? Is he leaving? Is he staying? Who knows? What I do know, I've seen Locked On Terps from Maryland, which I don't know how true this is. Good friends over there at Locked On Terps. They think that they have a chance to flip Jordan Seaton. Dan Lanning and Oregon are very much after Jordan Seaton. They were supposed to host him for a visit after his commitment to Colorado, and I think that fell through, but you never know these days because obviously things get a little hectic when NIL gets involved. And it's just one of those things where if Colorado loses Jordan Seaton, I think that would be the biggest loss of the year. Like games, doesn't matter. Transfer, doesn't matter. I think Jordan Seaton would be the biggest loss of the year because I view him as a cornerstone piece for this program. He's someone who saw that Colorado needed an offensive line. He's like, I embrace that challenge. I embrace the challenge that comes with going to a non-traditional power program. Like obviously he had offers from Ohio State, Tennessee, Michigan, Alabama, whoever, Georgia, whoever wanted him, he had an offer from. He could have said, hey, Florida, I want to go to Florida. And Florida would have been like, come on down. And he chose Colorado, which obviously Coach Prime's there. And who would, like, I can't imagine telling Deion Sanders to his face, hey, I respect you, but I don't want to play for you. I don't think I'd be able to do that in a lifetime. But still, he's at Colorado. It's not a traditional power. It's not a traditional program that top recruits are going to. And he chose that challenge. He accepted the challenge of blocking for Shedeur Sanders as a freshman. Because obviously the offense line at Colorado is probably going to be under one of the most pressured groups in college football next year because they were the thing that held Colorado back this year. Let's call spade a spade. Colorado wins more games if their offense line was at least average. They were far below average. They were the worst in the Power 5, probably the worst in the country, to be honest. And he replaced all five of them, which is a great thing. And I consider Jordan Seaton to kind of be like he was the building block because I kept saying, and I'll say it again because I still think it will remain true. It's going to be very difficult to build an offensive line through the portal every year and hope that it works. You could acquire portal talent at the offensive line, but assuming that you could go in there and get 3 to 5 guys every single season and it's going to work out every year, it's not. That's just not how the portal works. It's not how the cookie crumbles. We've seen portal quarterbacks fail. We've seen portal receivers bust. We've seen portal running backs not be what they're expected to be. That's just how the portal works. And so having a recruit that's going to be there for 3 years that you develop and that other guys want to play with, I think is very important. So not sure what the tweet was. Maybe he's just playing the recruiting game because obviously that's kind of what a lot of people do. Charles Lester III has been playing a lot of games on social media. He's been reposting stuff about Colorado. He's been posting tweets about one program's NIL came through, and it's really interesting to see what goes on there. But Jordan Seaton is someone to look out for. I would say look out for Charles Lester. You never know. Coach Prime has flipped a 5-star defensive back every year. Why not make it a third year running? And it'd be the second time that'd be for Mike Norvell, which would be kind of funny just because of that Florida State-Colorado rivalry, which they don't play each other, and I don't know if they ever will unless they like meet in a bowl game or the playoff. But this rivalry between Coach Prime and his alma mater is pretty cool. And yeah, just look out for Jordan Seaton. Not sure what the tweet meant, but you never know with recruiting these days. Got to keep your eyes peeled. I'll keep you guys updated over here on Locked On Buffs. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. I appreciate you guys for making me your first listen of the day. Give me 5 stars on Spotify and Apple. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. Let's get that number up to 5,000. Let's get everything up. We're going through the roof. We're going to have some cool guests coming up. You guys won't want to miss it. I will see you guys tomorrow on early signing day.